Hello YouTube, this is Neon. Today I'm going to be talking about how I visualize sending and receiving love as a means of coping with life and as a means of coping with my mental illness. So these are my views on love. I do believe that love is the most powerful virtue. I don't like that word power, but it's the most effective virtue. However, my favorite virtue is truth. So I'm gonna read a poem. This poem is called Truth 2, the number 2. Oh my God, I dared to ask you for truth. That's exactly what you gave, and it was too much to bear. The truth of what we are all about, the most central truth to humankind. But you gave me love. Love is the strength to bear this truth, and love demands that I love myself and humankind anyway. NeonEli'shuaX. The ultimate truth is love. Now to my visualizations. The visualization that I use is, I imagine that I am receiving bubbles. They're yellow. Each bubble says I love you on them, and these bubbles come like this constantly, just like as if a person was blowing bubbles. These bubbles come to my stomach. Ugh, I don't know if you can see my stomach. They come to my stomach. They begin to give electric energy, and this energy, it's very bright, and it flows up the inside of my body, up to my neck, up to my head, and it leads through the top of my head, where this big neon sign lights up that says, I love you. So I use this visualization when I'm jogging, when I'm in public, when I'm around people, and it helps me to cope with being around people. I use it with God, where I'll imagine God is sending me love, and I'm again flashing my I love you back to Him. So in a sense, sending Him love. And then I imagine it to myself. So I visualize myself looking in the mirror, and I'm sending and receiving myself love. Okay? Now, this is such a corny, silly thing that for me it's embarrassing. And it's not intended to be instructional. And I also want to add that I have tried other visualizations. I started doing this maybe 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And I tried doing similar visualizations with humility, with peace, with contentment, with several different other, let's say, emotions or virtues. And none of them worked. None of them worked until I just started doing the I love you one. So as silly as it sounds, the reality is that it works. This is not intended to be instructional. This is not me telling you to do this visualization. If you want to, go for it. But if you were to take anything instructional about this, it would be pay tithes, right? 10% of what you make, pay above the 10%, and give it to someone or to people or to charities or whoever, where you don't get anything back in return from them, except perhaps a thank you. You don't get status, you don't get worshipped, you don't get to control people, you don't get any of that stuff. And the universe will give you things back. Also instructional would be the personal growth books that I've read. I've read books on meditating and visualization and This is a verse in the Bible. Speak those things that are not as though they were, and they shall come to pass. On that, books on that concept of speaking things into existence, which is more along the lines of programming our subconscious mind so that our subconscious mind will lead us in thought and action to realizing certain things. It's not about speaking that money's going to fall from the sky and then money falls from the sky. That's not what it is. Okay, so like if a person wants to get in great shape, they're going to have to do diet and exercise, but the speaking of it will lead them in thought and action to the right exercises, the right diet, and they still will have to put in the work, and it will probably be an uphill climb. But that's where visualizations and speaking comes into play. It's a part of that. It doesn't produce the end result, but it undergirds, kind of like sunlight or water or soil, it undergirds a plant and it makes the plant grow. All right. So what I have found as these visualizations are evolving, I'm getting better at them little by little, day by day. I recently found that there's a certain demeanor of serenity that for a period of about a week or two, it hasn't been happening lately, but when I get really focused on visualizing, sending and receiving love, there's this demeanor of serenity where I almost feel like I'm a little bit, I hate to say above, but I'm going to say above the circumstances of the world, or impervious to the circumstances of the world. So I'm able to focus more, for example, when I'm jogging. Because sometimes when I go to jog, I jog at a local park, which is convenient because the circumference is a mile. So I know how many miles I've covered. And there's a fountain there, so I have water, particularly for the summer. So sometimes people will call me the N word, the F word. Sometimes they will call it to me in Spanish, sometimes it's in English. So sometimes I'll get the run, Forrest, run. Many times I'll get different kind of people that try to interfere in some way. And this helps me to focus without having these outbursts of anger, because I've cussed people out, and I have had outbursts of anger where people almost always have done something to me first, said something, and I just couldn't take it. So this is causing me responding to that to lessen and lessen, and to where I'm more and more able just to move forward. Doesn't happen all the time, but it used to happen every day where someone would say something or do something. It's a crowded park, so that plays a role too. Most of the people at the park are really nice, and they don't give a damn about anybody working out. But that's one way where I use it, and it helps me focus on my workout, and it helps me to control these fits of anger. I should be wearing my glasses right now. I said that. One thing that it does is it helps me to deep breathe, to breathe deep. Like when I'm finna have a fit of anger, one thing that a lot of people say is take a deep breath and exhale. And it's kind of like all these antioxidants or whatever builds up in your lungs. Doing that can be a way of getting rid of those anger where if something don't go my way at home, for example, I want to start screaming and cussing at the top of my lungs and act like a madman, or punch a hole in the wall, or punch the wall, do something like that, throw something across the room. So if I turn to this visualization as I'm doing more and more, that one tends to be me sending and receiving love to and from myself. The more that I cling to that visualization, immediately I start deep breathing, and I'm able to dispel that anger and that buildup of just wanting to have a fit of rage. I've heard of deep breathing. I've been to places that kind of like try to teach people how to manage their emotions, and they teach that, but it's just something that didn't occur to me. It's never occurred to me, okay, I'm angry now, so now I need to deep breathe. No, it's I'm angry, boom, I see red, and I just want to have a fit of anger. And usually what I would do is my heart would be racing and I'm holding it in because I know I can't break things. I know I don't want to be screaming at the top of my lungs because I don't want my neighbors calling the police. So what happens is my heart will start racing, and it's not good for your blood pressure. It's not good for your heart. It's not good. So, but that was how I would kind of suck it in. It's like, okay, I would bottle up all these emotions because I could never turn to deep breathing. It's so amazing that this visualization of love actually automatically pushes me from wanting to bottle up anger that wants to explode to deep breathing. And I may only deep breathe once. Typically it's once. Sometimes it may be more than once, but typically it's once. Most of the time it's once. And that's enough to dispel that anger in a healthy way without bottling it up and without screaming and shouting and all that stuff. So I'm going to consider this part 1. I will be uploading the second part Sunday, God willing. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share, comment commercials, recommend my videos. Do one or more of those things. Thank you and best wishes.